Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for March 14, 2023, the $27 billion in corruption issue. And we begin with that story from TheStraitsTimes, which reports that a $27 billion tax scandal at an Indonesian finance ministry has cast a tarnishing shadow on Indonesia's anti-graft push. A brewing scandal in Indonesia and suspicious transactions over 14 years is casting a very wide shadow on the president's campaign to root out corruption in government as public anger mounts. A state financial watchdog earlier this week identified questionable dealings related to criminal offenses at the finance ministry from 2009 to 2023. Unfortunately, similar cases have been found in other ministries as well. The president has pledged stronger action after Indonesia slid down the Transparency Corruption Index. Next up, from the FCPA Blog, the Pennsylvania coal company Corsa Coal Corporation received a declination Monday from the Department of Justice, despite its employees and agents violating the FCPA in a scheme to bribe Egyptian company officials to win contracts to supply coal. According to the declination letter, Corsa's employees knew that an intermediary would be used to bribe Egyptian officials. The disgorgement, or rather the declination, followed a self-disclosure, extraordinary cooperation, extensive remediation, and profit disgorgement. So, our first declination of 2023. Next up, from the New York Times, the corruption watchdog has moved to clear South African president in a cash-in couch incident. After $580,000 was stolen from a sofa of the president, his head of security skirted regulations, but the president did not violate any laws. The South African corruption watchdog said that the president committed no legal violations in the theft of more than $500,000, which was stashed in a sofa. You have to wonder, why was $500,000 stashed in a sofa? But apparently not a problem for the president of South Africa. And our final story comes to us from the Times of Israel, which reports that Qatar spied on top Swiss prosecutor probing FIFA for corruption. The project was dubbed Project Matterhorn, and was allegedly aimed to get content for possible pressure against Michael Lubner amid fears that Doha would be stripped of its hosting of the 2022 World Cup. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.